Barnes versus Fisher. Matt Barnes never wanted to be the guy in the middle of NBA gossip, but what happened between him and Derek Fisher didn't feel like gossip at all. It felt personal. It started quietly with Barnes trying to navigate a messy breakup and split custody while still grinding through an NBA season. Then one night, while driving with his kids in the back seat, he heard a voice through the Bluetooth speaker that made his stomach drop. His ex had accidentally picked up a call, and the voice on the other end, Derek Fisher. Barnes realized Fisher wasn't just talking to her. He was at Barnes's house, with Barnes's kids, sitting in the backyard Barnes paid for. That flipped a switch. He drove across California, hopped the fence, and found Fisher with his arm around his ex. Barnes didn't hesitate. The punch, the shouting, the chaos behind closed doors. Fans didn't realize how close this came to ending careers. And what happened next would shock everyone, because this wasn't the end of their story, but only the start of something far messier. Shaq versus Howard. Most fans treat the Shaq versus Dwight Howard feud like cartoon-level pettiness, but underneath it all was a deeper identity crisis that lasted years. Shaq built his entire persona around being the league's real-life Superman. The tattoos, the custom cars, the house decorated with capes and emblems, it became who he was on and off the court. Then Dwight came along, followed the exact same career path, played for the exact same franchise, and leaned into the exact same superhero branding. It wasn't imitation, it was replacement. That's when Shaq turned brutal. He mocked Dwight's stats, questioned his dominance, and insisted no one would ever confuse the two. The roast sessions, the diss track, and the public humiliation weren't just jokes. They were territorial. Shaq felt someone stealing a legacy he wasn't ready to lose. And when Dwight finally won a ring, Shaq undercut it instantly, calling him a passenger. It gets worse because Dwight still wanted peace, and Shaq wanted none of it, making this rivalry feel more personal than playful. Kareem versus LeBron. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar spent decades standing alone at the top of the scoring mountain. He watched legends come and go while his record sat untouched, almost mythical. But as LeBron James climbed closer, something subtle started happening. Kareem became critical in ways that felt strangely targeted. He called LeBron's celebration childish, mocked a meme he posted, and hinted that LeBron was slipping in judgment. Fans brushed it off as an old head being old. What they missed was the jealousy creeping through. Kareem understood legacy better than anyone, and LeBron threatened to rewrite history in real time. By the time LeBron publicly said he had no relationship and no thoughts about Kareem, the coldness between them was impossible to ignore. And then LeBron walked into the record-breaking game dressed in all black like he was attending a symbolic funeral. Kareem handed over the ball that night, but you could see it in his eyes. The loss stung deeper than anyone realized. But that wasn't the end, because tension still lingers every time their names are mentioned together. Durant versus Westbrook. Kevin Durant leaving Oklahoma City wasn't just a superstar changing teams. It was a rupture between two players who built their identities together. Westbrook played like every possession was a fistfight, and Durant often felt he had to fit around that chaos. After blowing a playoff lead to the Warriors, KD didn't just leave. He joined the exact team that knocked them out, and he didn't even call Russ. That betrayal sparked a storm. The cupcake signs, the snake emojis, the icy stares, it all came from a fan base and a player who felt abandoned. And when they finally met on the court, the shouting match wasn't about basketball. It was resentment spilling over. Even the All-Star reunion lob wasn't reconciliation, it was damage control. But that's not all. Years later, KD claimed the partnership had run its course, while Westbrook still talked about loyalty like a wound that never healed. Their careers kept crossing paths, but the trust never returned, and the silence between them said far more than any argument. Lillard versus George. Damian Lillard and Paul George never needed a long rivalry to hate each other. One shot created everything. When Dame ended the Thunder's season with that deep step back, the wave goodbye became a symbol of humiliation that stuck to Paul George like glue. PG tried brushing it off as a bad shot, but that only made things uglier. Dame fired back, calling the comment salty and doubling down on the fact that he practices those exact shots. The feud didn't cool down, it spread. Patrick Beverley jumped in, taunting Dame from the bench, clowning his missed free throws, and throwing his own wave in Dame's face. Then families got involved online, making the beef way more personal. Dame never forgot any of it. His posts, his comments, his subtle jabs, they all pointed back to the same idea. He embarrassed them once, and they never recovered from it. And it gets crazier later in the script, because this is one feud that only grew more hostile as careers changed. Dončić versus Booker. Luka Dončić and Devin Booker started as rising stars, but every meeting between them added another layer of bitterness. Booker mocked Luka's foul call by naming it the Luka Special, but he didn't expect Luka to respond immediately with a smirk and a chilling line. Everyone acting tough when they're up. Luka backed every word up with the most lopsided Game 7 performance of modern NBA history. He matched the Suns' first half scoring by himself and laughed as Phoenix melted on their own court. That humiliation rewired the rivalry. Every stare down, every shove, every whispered insult carried the weight of that night. And when they met again, Booker tried taunting Luka after a missed layup, only for Luka to step inches from his face and remind him that he talks when the clock is nearly dead. But that's not all. Fans don't realize how much this feud circles around playoff trauma and public embarrassment, making every rematch feel like another trap waiting to be sprung. Brooks versus LeBron. Dillon Brooks poked a bear he didn't understand. He didn't just trash talk LeBron James. He called him old, said he didn't fear him, and demanded someone drop 40 on him if they wanted respect. Brooks thought he was building a villain persona, but he was building a trap for himself. LeBron didn't respond with words. He responded with plays, with drives to the rim, with moments that made Brooks look powerless. And when Brooks delivered that shot to LeBron's midsection, hoping to get under his skin, he only got ejected and mocked nationwide. By the time the Lakers won the series by 40, Brooks refused to talk to reporters. Memphis refused to re-sign him. And LeBron dropped the final blow through Instagram. But the darkest part is what fans often miss. Brooks wanted spotlight. Instead, the entire league treated him like a cautionary tale. And what happens later in this video ties directly to how quickly a persona can collapse. Harden versus Morey. James Harden and Daryl Morey built one of the closest star and executive partnerships the modern NBA has ever seen. Morey empowered Harden, reshaped the Rockets around him, defended his style, and trusted him more than any other GM would have. Harden took less money to rejoin him in Philadelphia, believing he'd get a massive deal the next summer. Instead, Morey backed out. Harden felt betrayed. He called Morey a liar in front of cameras overseas, said he'd never play for him again, and forced his way out. Fans see a contract dispute, but this was deeper. It was a broken promise from the one executive Harden trusted. The whispers around the league say Harden expected loyalty no GM could afford, and Morey expected professionalism Harden didn't deliver. Their relationship shattered instantly. This feud exposes how personal business can get, but first, only cool people are subscribed to this channel. So hit that subscribe button before we go any further. Giannis versus Harden. Giannis Antetokounmpo and James Harden never needed a playoff series to hate each other. Their rivalry grew out of something far stranger. A clash of philosophies on how basketball should even be played. It started when Giannis won MVP over Harden, and Harden couldn't hide his frustration. Then Giannis joked on national TV that he didn't want the dribbler on his all-star team and said he deliberately hunted whoever Harden guarded when they played. Harden fired back hard, claiming he wished he could just be 7 feet tall, run, and dunk, because that takes no skill. That shot landed deep because Giannis built his entire identity on hard work and effort. Their feud wasn't just two stars jawing. It was ego versus ego, each trying to paint the other as overrated. And it gets worse because their fan bases tore each other apart online, turning every MVP discussion into a battleground that still hasn't cooled off. Whenever these two face off, the tension is impossible to miss, and the resentment still bubbles under every play. Pierce versus Wade. Paul Pierce and Dwayne Wade are connected by an invisible thread of bitterness that never seems to snap. It started on the court in the Celtics Heat battles, where every game felt like a heavyweight fight. But the real explosion came after retirement. Pierce jumped on national television and confidently said he had a better career than Wade, claiming he'd have more rings if he'd played with LeBron or Shaq. Analysts laughed. Teammates laughed. Even Wade's wife joined in roasting him online. What most fans missed was how personal it felt for Pierce. He watched Wade's legacy rise with Miami's championships, while his own reputation faded after bouncing between franchises. When Wade responded by calling Pierce a jackass and saying he lived in Pierce's head rent-free, it crystallized the dynamic. Wade didn't need the argument. Pierce did. And it gets crazier because every time a new comparison video pops up, the feud reignites. Their rivalry is a reminder that some legends care more about respect than rings. Allen versus Garnett. Ray Allen leaving Boston for Miami looked like a normal free agency move on paper. But inside the Celtics locker room, it was treated like betrayal. He didn't call the big three. He didn't warn anyone. He just walked away and joined their biggest rival, a team built around the same superstar they've been trying to dethrone. Kevin Garnett refused to even speak to him. Paul Pierce felt blindsided. And Rajon Rondo, he treated Allen like he didn't exist for years. Allen was iced out of every reunion photo, group event, or celebration of their 2008 championship. Fans forget that the hatred ran deep because Allen didn't just leave, he joined the exact enemy that kept beating them. Even when they finally reconciled in 2018, you could still sense tension. KG hugged him, but not warmly. Rondo stayed distant, and some players still insist the bond can never fully be repaired. This feud shows how loyalty can fracture even the strongest championship brotherhood. Jordan versus Thomas. Michael Jordan and Isaiah Thomas didn't simply dislike each other. They represented two different versions of basketball greatness, and only one of them could win. Isaiah orchestrated the alleged all-star freeze out that embarrassed rookie Jordan. Then the bad boy Pistons spent years punishing him with physicality, designed to break his spirit. When Jordan finally beat Detroit, Isaiah's refusal to shake hands became one of the pettiest moments in sports history. But what came next was even darker. Jordan made it clear behind closed doors that he wouldn't join the Dream Team if Isaiah was on it. Isaiah wasn't just left off, he was erased from the greatest roster ever assembled. The fallout lasted decades, resurfacing again during The Last Dance when Jordan doubled down on the disrespect. Fans often treat it like a rivalry. It wasn't. It was personal sabotage between two icons who never forgave each other. And even now, every interview feels like another attempt to settle a score that will never be settled. Green versus Gobert. Draymond Green's beef with Rudy Gobert has been one of the most intense character clashes in modern basketball. It started with jokes. Draymond mocked Rudy for crying over an all-star snub and called him overrated. But once Draymond labels someone soft, he doesn't let it go. For years, he took shots at Gobert on TV, podcasts, anywhere he could talk. The tension escalated until it finally exploded during a game when Gobert tried breaking up a scuffle, and Draymond wrapped his arm around Rudy's neck in a chokehold. The league suspended him. Fans called for harsher punishment, and Draymond didn't show remorse. He kept mocking Gobert's defense, celebrating every time someone scored on him, and doubling down on the disrespect. What makes the feud more troubling is how one-sided it feels. Rudy rarely fires back, yet Draymond treats him like a personal enemy. And it gets crazier, because every new season brings a fresh moment that reignites the hate. This rivalry feels like it's one incident away from something bigger. Shaq versus McGee. Shaq and JaVale McGee's feud started as harmless fun on Shaqtin' a Fool, but it quickly spiraled into something mean-spirited. Shaq made McGee the main character of his blooper reel for years, branding him as the league's biggest joke. Even when JaVale improved his game and helped contenders, Shaq kept mocking him, refusing to let the narrative die. Eventually, McGee snapped and fired back online, leading to a heated exchange where Shaq insulted him repeatedly and threatened to expose him further. Kevin Durant jumped in to defend McGee, and the situation escalated into a full media storm. It only stopped when Shaq's own mother told him to knock it off. That's how far the feud had gone. And to this day, people still bring up Shaqtin' clips whenever McGee's name comes up, proving the wounds never fully healed. Beverley versus Paul. Patrick Beverley and Chris Paul have been circling each other for years, and their feud never dies. Beverley claims it started in college when he outplayed CP3 at a LeBron camp, and he's carried that grudge into the league. On the court, the tension is always visible. Bev undercut Paul midair in the playoffs, mocked his injuries, and delivered the infamous shove from behind that got him ejected. Off the court, the shots were even harsher. Beverley went on ESPN after the Suns collapsed in the playoffs and spent an entire morning dragging Paul's reputation, saying players don't fear him and calling him overrated. Paul never escalates publicly, but the look in his eyes when they face each other says everything. And when Bev kept bouncing from team to team while CP3 maintained Hall of Fame consistency, the contrast only made Beverley louder. This rivalry is built on bitterness and insecurity. And every time these two share a court, something explosive feels inevitable. If you like this video, consider watching this next one, which YouTube thinks you are going to really love.